That night, I thought I was just dropping my daughter off for a business trip. By sunrise, I was running for my life, with my 7-year-old grandson begging me not to go home, whispering words that would change everything. Yo, Grandma, please, she's planning something bad. Don't let her find us. Egg. My name is Evelyn Carter. I'm 71 years old. And until that night, I believed I knew my daughter, Melissa, better than anyone. I raised her alone after her father passed away. She was my pride, a successful project manager, a devoted mother, and, I thought, a good woman. But when a child looks at you with that kind of fear, you just know something is terribly wrong. We were at Atlanta International Airport, the fluorescent lights humming above us, people hurrying in every direction. Melissa checked her phone, sighing like she always did when she was impatient. It's just 3 days, Mom, she said, adjusting her blazer. Please make sure Lucas takes his meds on time, okay? I smiled, brushing off her tone. She was always stressed before trips. Lucas, her son, stood quietly beside me, clutching his small backpack, the one with dinosaur patches. His silence wasn't unusual, but his eyes, they never left his mother's face. Melissa knelt to hug him. Be good for Grandma, okay? I'll bring you a gift. He nodded stiffly. No smile, no wave. Just a stare that felt different. As she walked toward the gate, I felt something shift. A chill, maybe. Or instinct. The kind that whispers in your bones that this goodbye wasn't ordinary. When we reached the car, the garage was almost empty. The sound of my heels echoed against the concrete. I pressed the alarm. The old Buick blinked twice. That's when Lucas grabbed my wrist so tight it hurt. Yen, Grandma, he whispered, voice trembling, please don't drive back home. I blinked. What are you talking about, sweetheart? Ow. His eyes filled with tears. Mom said the house won't be safe after tonight. She said gas leak for Parm. She said the gas leak will take care of everything. Please, Grandma, believe me this time. Bricken. Så world froze beta brushing his hair a separatisa. For a moment, the world froze. The hum of lights, the faint sound of cars, it all vanished. I stared at him, my mind refusing to believe what I'd just heard. My daughter? Planning. That? But Lucas's little hand was shaking. His fear wasn't pretend. I pulled him close. Okay, I whispered, my throat tight. We're not going home tonight. His shoulders relaxed, and for the first time I realized this wasn't a child's fantasy. It was a warning, As I drove into the night with Lucas asleep beside me, I couldn't stop one question from circling in my mind. Why would my own daughter want us dead? The city lights faded behind us as the highway opened, like a ribbon of black glass beneath the tires. My old Buick groaned with every mile, but I didn't slow down. The world outside the windshield felt empty, silent, as if even the night was holding its breath. Lucas slept in the back seat, his small chest rising and falling in uneven rhythm. I glanced at him through the rearview mirror and saw the dried tears on his cheeks. How long had he been carrying this secret? How much had he heard? My thoughts spun faster than the tires. Melissa, my daughter, had changed so much since her husband, Michael, died in that car accident 3 years ago. She threw herself into work, into control, into walls that even I couldn't climb anymore. But murder? Insurance? My mind rejected it, even as fear whispered, what if it's true? I pulled into a Arthur C. Fowler diner on the outskirts of town. The flickering neon sign read Coffee and Company, though the place looked deserted. I parked near the edge of the lot, far from the streetlights, and cut the engine. As I reached for my phone to call Melissa, it buzzed in my hand, her name lighting up the screen. My heart jumped. I hesitated, then answered, Hello, Mom? Her voice was soft, almost too soft. Where are you? You should have been home an hour ago. A chill crept up my spine. Oh, we stopped for dinner, I said, forcing a laugh. Lucas wanted pancakes. She paused. I could almost hear her calculating. Really? At this hour? Yes, honey. You sound tired. Did your flight leave already? It was rescheduled, she said quickly. It was rescheduled, she said quickly. Mechanical issue. I'm coming back home tonight, that's when I knew. The way she said it, quick, rehearsed, fake, it wasn't Melissa's voice. It was someone hiding something. Well, I said softly. Then I guess we'll see you in the morning. Yes, she replied, her tone suddenly sugar-sweet. In the morning, the call ended. My hands trembled as I set the phone down. She wasn't at any airport. She was tracking us. I turned to look at Lucas, who had opened his eyes, sensing something wrong. Was that Mom? He asked, his voice small. Yes, I whispered. She said she's coming home. His eyes widened. Grandma. She knows we're not there. I swallowed hard. The truth had found us even in the dark. Yeko? If Melissa wasn't on that plane, then who was she really coming home to? And how much time did we have before she found us? We drove until the city lights were nothing but fading ghosts in the rearview mirror. Tripedi Kifak. Each mile carried us deeper into the countryside, into silence thick enough to hear my own heartbeat. Lucas sat awake now, clutching his toy dinosaur like it was a shield. Where are we going, Grandma? Falsable, somewhere safe, baby. He finally asked. Somewhere safe, baby, I said, even though I had no idea where safe was anymore. Yeah, that's when a memory surfaced. Mr. Hayes, the old superintendent from our previous apartment building. He'd always said, if you ever need a place to hide from the world, my door's open. Maybe he hadn't meant it literally, but right now, it was all I had. After an hour of winding through narrow streets, I parked on a quiet corner near the old brick building. The familiar hum of the city here felt strangely comforting. I left the car idling and told Lucas, stay here. Keep the doors locked. Inside the lobby, the security booth light was still on, Mr. Hayes looked up from his crossword puzzle, and his weathered face softened with recognition. Mrs. Carter? Well, I'll be. What are you doing here this late? Oh, please, I said quietly, I need your help. And I don't have time to explain everything out here. A few minutes later, Lucas was sipping warm cocoa at Mr. Hayes's small kitchen table, his shoulders trembling less now. I told Hayes everything, or at least enough to make him believe the danger was real. His lined face grew darker with every word. Your own daughter? He murmured, shaking his head. That's unthinkable. Perferplef, don't want to believe all, I said. I don't want to believe it either, I said. But I can't ignore what Lucas heard. And if I go to the police without proof, they'll think I'm delusional. He rubbed his chin thoughtfully. So what are you planning to do? I have to go back, I whispered. I need to find something in her office. Papers, messages, anything, but Lucas stays here. Immediately. Lucas shook his head. No, Grandma, please don't go. She'll hurt you. I took his hand, small and cold. I promise I'll be careful. I won't stay long. We need evidence, sweetheart. It's the only way the police will believe us, Mr. Hayes straightened his back. If you're going, I'm coming too. I'll wait outside just in case. I wanted to argue, but I was grateful. The truth was, I didn't want to face that house alone. We left Lucas behind, tucked safely under a blanket, his dinosaur still in his hand. His eyes followed me until the door closed. As the clock struck Arsers a.m. Zerk. I was walking toward the very house. My daughter wanted me to die. And I had no idea who might already be waiting inside. The streets were empty when Mr. Hayes parked a block away from my house. The night air was heavy, pressing down like a secret that wanted to stay buried. From here my home looked ordinary, lights off, curtains drawn, calm. You'd never guess that beneath that stillness danger waited, Mr. Hayes turned off the engine. You've got 20 minutes, he said, his voice low but firm. If you're not out by then, I'm calling the police, I nodded. 20 minutes, no more. Okay. I slipped out of the car and followed the familiar path through the side gate. The moonlight painted silver lines on the grass. My key slid into the lock like muscle memory. As I stepped into the kitchen, a faint smell hit me, metallic, chemical, almost sweet. It wasn't gas, but something unnatural hung in the air. I froze, listening. The refrigerator hummed softly. The grandfather clock in the living room ticked slow and steady. Nothing else. I crept upstairs. My flashlight barely a whisper of light. The old wooden steps groaned under my weight, each creak echoing like thunder in the silence. My daughter's home office door was locked. Not unusual, but now it felt sinister. I took out a bobby pin from my pocket. Old habits from raising a stubborn teenager die hard. The lock clicked open. I pushed the door slowly. The office was immaculate. Not a paper out of place. Melissa always loved control, but control leaves trails. I opened drawers carefully, scanning neatly stacked folders. At first, everything looked routine. Tax files, company letters, bills. But in the bottom drawer, under a pile of travel receipts, I found something that didn't belong. A black envelope marked only with a single letter. M. Inside were printouts of insurance documents, mine, copies of bank transfers to a name I didn't recognize, M. Rollins. And in the margins of one document, Melissa's handwriting looped cold and sharp. Go. Ensure timing aligns. Gas line, paperwork submission. Same day. Yo. I pressed my trembling hand to my mouth. My daughter hadn't just thought about it. She had planned it, down to the last breath. And before I could process the horror, my phone vibrated in my pocket. A text message flashed on the screen. From Melissa. Where are you, Mom? My stomach dropped, she knew. Then, the front door creaked open downstairs. Voices. A man's voice, not Melissa's. I turned off the flashlight and backed away from the desk. Sick. My heart hammered against my ribs. Someone was in the house, and they weren't alone. Go? As footsteps crept up the stairs, I realized I wasn't just searching for proof anymore. I was trapped inside my own daughter's deadly plan. The sound of the front door closing echoed through the house like a warning. My pulse quickened. I turned off the flashlight and pressed myself against the wall, barely daring to breathe. A man's voice drifted up from downstairs, deep, calm, almost casual. You sure she's not here? Then came Melissa's voice, cold, controlled. She's here. The car's gone, but her phone's still pinging near the house. She'd been tracking me. Every instinct screamed to run, but the staircase was too exposed. I stepped back toward the window, my hands trembling. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The little girl I once sang to sleep now sounded like a stranger. Check upstairs, she ordered. I froze. Their footsteps grew louder, one slow step at a time, the floorboards creaking closer. Shadows flickered under the door. I could see a man's silhouette, tall, broad shoulders. Pause outside the office. Keck. Then the doorknob turned. I slid behind the door, pressing my body flat against the wall. The door opened just enough for me to see part of his face under the hallway light. Rough, bearded, eyes sharp. He wasn't someone Melissa knew from work. He was muscle. He stepped inside, scanning the room. For one horrifying second, I thought he'd turn and see me. But Melissa called from downstairs, her voice sharp. Marcus! Leave it. Come help me in the kitchen. He hesitated, then turned back toward the hall. And when his footsteps faded, I exhaled shakily. My only way out was through the window. Icacus. I pushed it open slowly, cold air rushing in. Below was a narrow ledge that led toward the side of the house. It wasn't safe. One wrong move, and I'd fall 20 feet. But staying meant death. I swung one leg over then the other, gripping the frame for balance. The night air bit at my skin, but I didn't stop. I shuffled sideways along the ledge, toward the vines growing over the corner trellis. My knees ached, my fingers slipped, but I kept moving. Then, a shout from inside. Melissa. Someone's been in your office. I froze. Melissa's footsteps thundered upstairs. Find her, she screamed. Now. Okay. I scrambled down the trellis, splinters biting into my palms. Halfway down, my foot slipped, and I landed hard on the grass, pain shooting through my hip. But I forced myself to stand and stumbled toward the back fence. Behind me, a flashlight beam sliced through the darkness. There! She's outside. I climbed the fence, my heart pounding, every breath a gasp of pain and adrenaline. I didn't look back. Sir, I ran until my legs burned, until the only thing louder than the crickets was the sound of my own fear. I had escaped the house, but my oldest friend was still inside, and if Melissa found him, she'd realize the truth. I wasn't running from her anymore. I was coming for her. By the time I reached the main road, my legs were shaking so badly I could barely stand. The distant glow of a convenience store sign was the only light for miles. Rent. My breath came out in ragged gasps as I pulled the burner phone from my pocket. The one Mr. Hayes had given me. I dialed Jobat Ishra'i with trembling fingers. "Ma'am, what's your emergency?" This is Evelyn Carter," I said, trying to steady my voice. "My daughter is trying to kill me. She's planning a gas explosion at my home. And she's not alone. My friend is still inside." There was a pause on the other end, the kind where disbelief hides behind protocol. "Yokan, are you in immediate danger, ma'am?" "Yes," I whispered. "And please, send someone to Arbeck Bashant T. Brooklane Drive. My friend is being held there. Hurry." I gave them every detail I could remember, my voice cracking when I mentioned Lucas. When the dispatcher promised officers were en route, I ended the call and leaned against a lamppost, tears of exhaustion spilling down my cheeks. Within minutes, flashing red and blue lights painted the horizon. 2 patrol cars screeched to a stop beside me. Ken. The older officer, a broad man with tired eyes, took one look at my face and said gently, "You'd better tell us everything." And as they examined the photos I'd taken of Melissa's documents, their skepticism faded. One officer called for backup immediately. "We'll get your friend out first," he said, "and then we'll secure the boy." "The boy," I echoed, my chest tightening. "Lucas, he's safe with someone. But if she figures that out, she won't get to him," the officer assured me. "Not tonight." Go. We sped toward the house, sirens slicing through the dark. I clutched the seatbelt, watching the familiar streets blur past. The same roads I'd driven 1,000 times to pick up groceries, to take Lucas to school. It felt like another life. When we arrived, I watched from inside the patrol car as officers surrounded the property, flashlights cutting through the trees. My heart pounded. The radio crackled, "Connote, Unit 3 in position. Move in." Then, chaos. A door slammed. Shouts. A loud crash. Yet moments later I saw them, 2 officers helping a limping figure. Out through the back, Mr. Hayes. He was alive. Blood streaked his forehead, but he was breathing. Relief hit me so hard I almost sobbed. Behind him, another man emerged in handcuffs, the stranger from the office. Marcus, but no Melissa. The officer ran up to the patrol car. "Ma'am, your daughter's gone. She slipped out the back before we arrived, gone." Can't. And suddenly one thought tore through the haze of relief and terror like lightning. Kill. Lucas. If Melissa knew I'd escaped, there was only one other place she could go. The one person she could still use against me. My grandson. The moment the officer said Melissa was gone, my heart stopped. My mind raced straight to Lucas. I grabbed the older officer's arm, my voice shaking. "She knows," I said. "She'll go after him. He's with Mr. Hayes's grandson at the old building. We have to move now." They didn't waste a second. Within minutes we were racing through the sleeping city again. The flashing lights reflecting off the dark windows. My thoughts were a storm. Every mile feeling like another minute stolen from Lucas. Kank. When we reached the building, the air was heavy with dread. The service door, the one that led to the small staff apartment, was open. A light swung in the hallway, flickering like a heartbeat. "Stay in the car, ma'am," the officer ordered. But I couldn't. I ran. The hallway smelled of cocoa and dust. My voice trembled as I called out, "Lucas?" "Sweetheart, it's Grandma." Silence. The officer pushed open the apartment door. Inside, chaos. The sofa bed rumpled, the blanket tossed aside, a cup shattered on the floor. And on the table, a torn sheet of paper written in hurried, childish handwriting. "Ku?" "Mama found me. She says you lied, Grandma. She says you're sick. I don't know what to believe. I'm scared. Help me." The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. "Mister?" Hayes steadied me before I collapsed. "She took him," I whispered. "She took my baby." Within minutes, radio chatter filled the air. An amber alert went out. Roadblocks were ordered on every major route out of the city. But I knew Melissa. She was always 2 steps ahead. At the police station, they questioned me relentlessly, piecing together her pattern. The sergeant, a tall man with calm eyes, leaned over the desk. "Think, Mrs. Carter. Anywhere she'd go where no one would look?" I closed my eyes, digging through years of memories. And then it hit me, 2 weeks ago. Lucas had mentioned something strange. "Mama took me to see a secret house," he'd said. "It had a big lake and horses. She said it was our special place. I had brushed it off. But now it fit." "Yen." "There's a lake property," I told them, "somewhere past Willow Creek or Riverbend." He said it was called something like Ridgewood or River something. Dined. The sergeant snapped his fingers. "Riverwood Ranch. We pulled that name on a property registry last month. Newly rented under a fake ID. Fits her profile." He turned to his team. "We move now. West Route, Highway, Ebite Sister R." I clutched the photo of Lucas from my wallet, his gap-toothed grin, his bright eyes, and whispered, "Hold on, baby. Grandma's coming." Somewhere out there, my daughter was driving through the night, and my grandson's only hope was that I'd find them before she made her final, fatal mistake. We left before sunrise, a convoy of patrol cars cutting through the misty highway. The world outside was still gray, the kind of quiet that feels like the earth is holding its breath before something breaks. I sat in the back seat beside Mr. Hayes, clutching Lucas's photo. My fingers wouldn't stop shaking. Every passing mile of farmland felt like a countdown. The sergeant's radio crackled. "Property located, Riverwood Ranch, Highway, Ebite Sister R. No movement visible from the main road." As we turned down the dirt path, the trees closed in around us. The house came into view, a small country home with a wrap-around porch, peaceful and wrong all at once. A barn stood behind it just like Lucas had described. The convoy stopped. The sergeant turned toward me. "Stay here, Miss S. Carter. We'll get your grandson." I nodded, but my heart refused to stay still. The officers moved in, silent and focused, fanning out through the trees. I could barely see them between the leaves. And then a sharp voice cut through the morning air. "Don't come any closer." It was Melissa. She stood on the porch, her hair a mess, her eyes wild and sunken. One arm gripped Lucas tight against her, and in her other hand gleamed a silver pistol. "Put the gun down," the sergeant shouted. "Wersh Bersespavorschen Eder Tushing Cover one of her sis," the sergeant shouted, stepping out from cover. "Let the boy go, Melissa. You don't understand," she screamed, her voice breaking. "She lied to me. My mother stole everything. My father's money. My life. She's the reason Michael died." My breath caught. This wasn't just greed. It was madness wrapped in years of pain and resentment. Lucas's voice trembled. "Mom, please. You're hurting me." That was all it took. I pushed open the patrol car door. "Melissa," I yelled. And she spun toward me, eyes widening in shock. "You? How did you? You were supposed to—" "There was no accident," I said, taking a slow step forward. "No fire, no gas. You were going to kill us, Melissa. But it didn't have to be this way." The police tensed. The sergeant motioned for me to stop, but I couldn't. My voice cracked as I said, "You're still my daughter. I can't hate you, even after everything. Please let him go." For a moment I saw her, Not the furious stranger, but my little girl, trembling and confused. Then Lucas acted. With a sudden burst of courage, he twisted, biting her arm. The gun went off, a wild shot into the air. In an instant, officers surged forward. Melissa screamed as they pulled her down. Lucas stumbled, terrified but unharmed. I ran to him, gathering him in my arms. His body trembled against mine, but he was alive. My miracle. Mender, as the cuffs clicked around Melissa's wrists. She looked at me one last time, and I saw nothing but emptiness in her eyes. But I wasn't ready for goodbye. Not yet. The sun was rising by the time they took Melissa away. The soft light touched the trees, turning the morning golden, as if nature was trying to erase the nightmare that had unfolded there. Nakwa. Lucas sat wrapped in a blanket on the back of an ambulance, his face pale, but his eyes steady. When he saw me, he whispered, "Grandma, we're safe now?" Konkelfer vertrapten. "Yes, sweetheart," I said, brushing the hair from his forehead. "We're safe." He nodded slowly, his little fingers gripping mine. "I knew you'd come." My throat tightened. "And I'll always come, baby. Always." When I turned to watch the officers leading Melissa to the patrol car, something inside me broke and healed all at once. She didn't scream this time. She didn't even look angry. Just empty, like the fire that had driven her had finally burned itself out. "Yay, Mom," she said quietly before they closed the door. "You were right. I lost myself." Tears blurred my vision. "Then find yourself again, Melissa," I whispered, even though she couldn't hear me. Days passed, then weeks. The investigation confirmed everything: the insurance, the plan, the accomplice. Melissa was charged, and the media called it the Riverwood case. But for us, it wasn't a headline. It was a scar we'd carry for life, mister. Hayes stayed by our side through every hearing, every sleepless night. We moved into a new apartment, small but warm, filled with light. Lucas began therapy, and his laughter, though rare at first, started to return. And one night, he asked me the question that had haunted me too. "Grandma, why would Mama want to hurt us?" "Cow?" I took his hand and said softly, "Sometimes the people we love lose their way. Pain can twist good hearts into something dark. But love, Lucas, love is what brings us back to the light." He leaned against me. "You still love her, don't you?" "Yes," I said, "and I always will. But now I love us more. Enough to start again." As I tucked him into bed, I realized what that little boy had taught me. Trust doesn't come from age or wisdom. It comes from listening, from believing even the smallest voice that cries for help. Because that night when Lucas said, "Grandma, believe me," he didn't just save us. He gave me a second chance to live, to love, to listen. You know, sometimes the smallest voices carry the biggest truths. I spent 70 years believing wisdom only comes with age. But my 7-year-old grandson proved me wrong. If this story touched your heart, show it some love. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and subscribe for more true life stories that remind us, no matter how dark life gets, love and courage can always lead us home,